Hey guys, so a while back I made a video showing you how to decode a Kwikset smart key doorknob using a KW1 leashy pick. If you guys want to check out that video, I will leave a link right up here and you can learn how to decode those. It works on the first generations, not the new generation, just as a heads up. But I got bored and I just posted a short to kind of revive the video and keep the channel alive a little bit. And uh, I was the clip that I posted. I was using my code cutter, my punch machine, to code cut the key after I decoded it, and all of the comments seem to have asked about why I didn't widen the cuts. Why don't you widen your cuts? You're supposed to widen them every time you cut a Kwikset key and stuff like that. And I didn't, when you try to respond to somebody in a comment or a text, it never comes across the right way. And depending on the mood that someone's in or what's going on, it could uh, be an issue. So I wanted to make this video so you can hear it vocally, so you see I'm not being argumentative or anything like that. I just want to point out why I didn't widen the cuts. So when it comes to cutting or code cutting a Kwikset key, if it's just a standard KW1, when you are rekeying a home, I use this Lab 3000s pinning kit. When you use the 3000s kit or you use an aftermarket kit, you do not need to widen the cuts. You only need to widen them if you are code cutting the key for a factory Kwikset lock. And really, that's for the older styles. They've actually gotten a little bit better. So if you want to test it yourself, you can go pick up a Kwikset lock right now at Home Depot or Lowe's, bring it back and code cut the key and just put it right in. Don't widen the cuts and it will work. They've gotten better. Kwikset used to use these blunt style pins way back. And when you use those, there was more play, so you had to widen the cuts. It was just kind of a thing. But it actually tells you on the code machine, only widen them if you are using those pins. So I'll even show you here on the code card for the KW1. And this is, I'm going to show you guys from the punch machine that I was using in the video. Right down here, note when using original pins, double punch as shown. You're basically going to, if you're using factory, you're going to start. They tell you to start on the left and then the right, so that way you get a perfect wide cut instead of cutting in the middle and then trying to chip off the two pieces, or cutting in the middle and having the file. You just cut here and then here. So that's how they tell you to do it, but it says only, especially on the Blitz machine, it actually has a thing that says only. Do that when you are using factory pins. Now, I want to show you something real quick. So with the SC keys, Schlage, and every other manufacturer known to the world, when they have a 6-pin lock, if we put these, this is an SC1 and an SC4. This is for a 5-pin lock from Schlage, and this is a 6-pin. If we hold these keys shoulder to shoulder, the first 5 cuts line up perfectly, and then you have this final 6th cut that they add to the end of the key. When it comes to, I'll step around here, the Titan and the KW1, so this is a KW10, this is like your Titan key, and this is the KW1, this is a 5-pin, this is a 6-pin. However, you can cut this as a 5-pin. So when you put these shoulder to shoulder, if we look, they line up perfectly. So if you ran out of these, you could always cut somebody a spare KW1 on a KW10. However, if you look at the bottom shoulder, see how far back it is on the KW10 where the bottom shoulder here ends there. On the Titan, this is the shoulder that matters. This is the shoulder that stops you. So what Kwikset did, unlike everybody else, and I am just looking at this key. This key just looks weird. It almost, you know what? This key is upside down, isn't it? This is an upside down Kwikset key. Look at that. That's actually pretty funny. As a side note, look what happens when you buy these keys. So this is going back to the only buy USA keys. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. That's funny. That's fun. I don't know. I don't know. Okay. But uh yeah, that's funny. I'm okay, side note. But anyway, if this was it should be like this. That's funny. I'm gonna save this and frame it. But uh what Kwikset did on the Titan was, instead of adding the sixth pin to the end of the key and making it longer, they made a very narrow sixth pin in the beginning before the KW1. So to show you here on the Titan code card here, see how it's 1, 2, 3. Let me see if I have a pic so I can point a little better for you. So we're looking here. So your sixth cut is this one. So we're looking here. So this is your 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So that one cut is really narrow up against the top shoulder. So what happens if you are trying to cut, if you're rekeying a house, and like the comment in that video, the locksmith said that he went to a home and one of the knobs was a Titan, one was a smart key, and one was like a stone harbor. He was saying that the spacing's always different depending on the locks. So you always widen them so that way it will work, because if you pick up a stone harbor, the spacing might be off from your Kwikset. Not really necessarily. What happens is when you go to that rekey and you have the Titan, because you have this sixth pin and you're trying to rekey the house that's 5 pins, if you use the same code wheel, if you have the blitz machine, or the same die on the punch machine all the way across, you're going to cut into that first pin way too deep. So if we actually read on here, use PCH the punch, 10-11 in the first position, and PCH 14 in the 2 through 6 position. You may use PCH 1, 10-11 and widen for all, but you will need to file the hooks. So kind of like they were saying in the comments, a lot of them, they cut and then they file later. So to get around that, you just simply change out the wheel or the die for that first cut because it's narrower. So this is really the wheel that you use when you cut your Y11s and stuff like that. It's, tiny, but if you use on this one, the PCH 14, it's going to be so wide that it actually cuts into that next cut. And it also can actually eat into the shoulder. So you need that more narrow wheel or die to cut the key. If not, if you use the PCH all the way across, your spacing is going to be off. They're all going to be a little off center and it's not going to work. So to get around that, one cheat that people use is when you have a home where like you have one Titan deadbolt and the rest are brand new modern KW1 5-pin Kwiksets. What a lot of guys will do is just leave that first, sixth pin, that first one as just a 1, and then they will just rekey and key it up like the rest. That way the spacing never gets thrown off. That is kind of like a cheat. Some people use it. It's not really hurting security. You're just going to key up every Titan you go to as the first cut as a 1. It's not like you're ditching a pin, so I don't really have issues with it. It is like a cheat, a workaround. But the proper way to do it, if you want to change that up, is you change the wheel or the die on your first cut. After that, you can just cut them up and they will work smooth. You don't have to, fight with them. Again, you can always take a look at these, read your code cards, just so that way you can see it. You must use non-original bullet nose pins in the first position. See, something like that is something you need to pay attention to when you are keying up the card isn't just for cutting the key. It's also showing you, all this here, file, flat on the center line for blunt nose factory. See, this is talking again about those blunt pins that the factory used way back, way back. They don't really use them anymore, but again, that is what the widening issue was. This actually shows you here what will happen if you cut it wide the other way. You'll have to actually take a file and file off that little corner there. But I just wanted to touch on that. So the other thing that was mentioned was, if you pick up a variety of locks or you go to a home with a variety of locks overseas or hardware, the spacing doesn't change. The pin size might change. So if you guys watched a video I put out recently, I'll leave it up here, on how to rekey a ultra lock, smart lock deadbolt. You guys will see that the keyway was milled at a slant. So the last pin that I used ended up being like 14 sizes down from what it should have been, where normally on some locks it'll be off one or two depths one way or the other. On that one, you can see one of those overseas locks, how they milled it out. They say that it was for an anti-bump feature. That's what a lot of other locksmiths have said to me. They kind of claim it themselves. I don't know if that's just their way of saying, hey, we milled these wrong, but look at that. Or if they really did it on purpose for that. I don't really know. But with that said, you have... So when you get to a rekey and you got a Smart Key Gen 2, you got a Stone Harbor, you got a Defiant, and you got the Ultra Lock, the spacing is going to be the same across the board. Like you can't, if the spacing was up, you couldn't have the same, you couldn't do it. But especially with this key because it's wrong. But so when you are rekeying, the spacing is always the same, but the depths might be off a little bit. The other thing that was going on, I don't know if this is the case, but again, you can't use the same this style pin on the Titan when you're trying to key it up. It might jam up on you there. If you cut it with the wrong wheel or die, again, you will run into issues on the rest of the locks. So that is one issue. But the widening problem, and this has been asked for a long time. I've been meaning to touch on it. That video just kind of reminded me there. But when you are cutting the key, don't worry so much about widening these unless you are messing with factory keys, factory pins. If someone brings you a key and they've never rekeyed it since the 80s or whatever, feel free, go ahead and widen it up. But I have not had issues. And again, one of the comments was like, I work in the field and this is a real thing. And they told me to read the book. I read the book simply because how many people asked, and I wanted to see, because I know I was always told about this, not to worry about it unless it was the blunt pins or when you're messing with the Titans, obviously. But it kind of sounded like he almost thought I was like a shop locksmith. I've been doing this for a decade. So I've come across this, and on the punch machine, when I accurately cut them, I don't widen them. I've never had an issue. I've never had an issue from Defiant to, Amazon locks to overseas to whatever they sell at Walmart, Hyper Tough, I think it is. They're all the same spacing. It's the same way when you use a leashy pick to pick them and decode them. It's always right on the money. It's always right on the target. It's always going to decode it right where it's at. It might, like I've touched on in other videos, kind of like Ultra Lock, you might think it's this depth, but in reality, the pin is different because of the way it's milled, but the spacing doesn't change. So I just wanted to point that out. You will run into spacing issues if you run into Titans. So if somebody really doesn't want to change out that old dinosaur of a Titan and they want you to key it up to the rest of the home, just remember that, remember to read your code card. These aren't just on here just for the heck of it. Like, these are all really important details. And if you guys pay attention on some of the other code cards you have, just as a side note, when you're cutting certain vehicle keys, sometimes you might have a Chevy code card work for a Japanese car. So, you might have a code card from an American car that might also work over on a Japanese card. So you might think that you don't have the code card where you do. Sometimes it's actually just written on the card somewhere. So you can pay attention. That's what these little cliff notes are. So that gives you a lot. Like it even tells you the max. It tells you the progression. I mean, just if you ever get bored and you want to learn and you're just sitting there in the shop and you're an apprentice, read the code cards and it'll teach you a lot. It'll teach you the things that we might overlook when we're, going to a job and we don't think about it. So I just wanted to touch on that and just, no hard feelings. I didn't want to come across hostile or argumentative again. I just wanted to point that out. Again, a lot of people have been asking about that, and this was kind of my excuse to make the video. But thank you guys for watching. I hope this helped you guys out. I hope it cleared up some things from that video in the comments. And I will catch you guys in the next video.